An official design debuting in Medarot S that actually had help from the fans and the community in terms of its description and part names. It is CTC00 CockaTriple, with the kit of Destroy, Freeze, Virus, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Dead or Alive, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit for every critical hit scored with these legs equipped. Now, as a Cockatrice type, it is honestly kind of expected that they would have a very ailment-based and very ailment-heavy kit, but all the same, it honestly does feel to me, at the very least, that our resident god of destruction, Crimson King, who is CKN0 from Medarot 2, finally has a cousin who could be just as deadly as he is, if not in just a fairly different way. Destroy, in this case the melee variant, is a gambling skill that, if used correctly, can instantly destroy any part if it correctly attacks the part that the target is going to use, heat phase, has used, cooldown phase, or is intercepted by a shield. If it meets any of these three requirements, the part in question that they were targeting is instantly broken. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, if you fail to meet this requirement, it will deal moderate to minimal to moderate damage with no real extra kick or bonus. Now, it is also worth noting with Destroy that if attacking a foe that is in meta change while using a shield or while in meta change form, Destroy will also not instantly bust them. So this is something to pay attention to going forward now that meta change has officially gone into full swing with a lot of high-end meta models. Right Arm of Freeze is an ailment-based skill and a more conventional and highly desired one in particular, as it stops the opponent cold and guarantees that all hits will land, and all hits that land will also be critical hits on top of that. So this makes him very good for allowing for someone to come behind CockaTriple and finish them off with a more powerful nuke skill, such as, say, Ghost, Ghost Shot, Hyper Beam, and so on and so forth. Left Arm of Virus is a turn-based skill that if you attack the foe while they are in their heat phase, but you outrun them, it will essentially force them to waste their turn and not do anything once they hit the center line, which also makes it very good for general stall tactics in particular, so that to buy some time for the more dangerous foes. As a whole, CockaTriple's kit is rather scattered when it comes to ailment-based and combat skills, but it strangely works, and it actually synergizes with itself very well. Destroy honestly is very good for shield busting skills, or if you feel particularly lucky with attacking anyone, it could be very good for very quick and very aggressive blows, essentially, if you feel lucky with that. Freeze and Virus actually work surprisingly well together, given that if you can freeze someone and buy yourself that time, if you catch them in their heat phase, you could essentially 2-turn stun lock any target in particular, as freezing them will buy you that extra turn or two, and then Virus on top of that guarantees that the hit is going to be painful, and they have effectively wasted their turn at that point while taking a massive amount of punish damage. Across the board too, CockaTriple's kit and his stats are actually pretty nice as well. At about 3600 HP for his head, his right arm and his highest HP and only heavy part at about 3750, his left arm at about 3049, 3050, which is pretty good. And legs at 3400 HP is also very nice too. So a very healthy HP pool across the board too for what you'd expect, not necessarily of a nuker, but more of an ailment fighter and an auxiliary passive aggression in this case, or a setup kind of fighter. Leg mobility is very nice too at 864, so that very high upper sweet spot of where you'd want biped legs to be. Heavy limit of 1 isn't too bad, but honestly this is a very easy to overcome flaw, I guess, or drawback you could call it. Evade of 889 is pretty nice too, so not super high, but he definitely won't have too difficult of a time dodging the lower success or more blind enemies when that dude tried to come and combat him. Melee resist of 707 isn't bad, but it could be better. But a shoot resist of 1248, which is oddly weird for a melee fighter in particular to have a higher shoot resist, will definitely come to his aid. As a pure set score, I would honestly have to rate CockaTriple a pretty solid 6 out of 10. I honestly would have rated him a 7, but he honestly does have a couple particular weaknesses about him, and it's the fact that all three of his parts, they first of all do not have pierce damage, which means it will make his overall damage output very iffy. but as an ailment fighter, damage isn't necessarily his strong suit either, and Destroy also is very handy pretty much in any situation. However, Freeze and Virus do synergize very well, and CockaTriple's only real weakness in this case is anyone that is using Stat Cleanse. Now granted, with the rise in say Buff Trap, or now with Scrape with Urinade, with Effect Clear added to enemies, added to attacks, this will make using ailment type skills with this a little more viable to anyone that tries to use Stat Cleanse, or even discourage people from using Stat Cleanse at all in fear or in risk that someone may use Buff Trap or Effect Clear or even Scrape. Now as mixed parts on the other hand, I do have to rate him higher at a 7 out of 10. Given that, like I said, Destroy fits just about anywhere, his legs are very good too, with very moderately well-rounded stats, and Freeze and Virus you generally can't ever go wrong with anywhere. Now, of course, with Freeze being a heavy part, you probably may not use that one super often in favor of a non-heavy Freeze part instead. But, all the same, his parts by themselves synergize as a pure set, but even as mixed parts they can synergize very well with very good flexibility for any ailment fighter across the team.